A popular customization these days is to create a special administrative page for your clients where they can choose some options within the theme. I'll give you an example. Let's say you wanted to make it so that the client could make this disappear. The tagline could be made invisible if they wanted to, completely removed. You could create a theme options page where they could do that. Now, some theme options pages get a little bit crazy. So here's Suffusion, for example. Look at all these. These are all pages within theme options, and then each page has multiple sections within it. This is getting quite huge. Now, we don't need anything that busy to start us off. Let's do something really simple. So we're going to create an options page like this. Before we get started, though, I want you to think about why you're including a theme options page. What is it your client needs that you want to be able to give them through a theme options page? Well, for example, could this all be handled by a widget? So for example, if there's footer text that you want the client to be able to enter, it might be simpler to put that as a widget, something they're used to using, and then they just simply enter the text into that widget. You, of course, create the widget area for them in the theme template files, and that shows up in the widgets page. Does the action need to be theme independent? If you're concerned about the client switching themes later, they're going to lose some of that functionality unless they're careful and replicate the theme and so forth, or use a child theme and that sort of thing. But it might be simpler to create a plugin that does whatever it is you need to do, whatever variables you need to create, or have the client be able to create. Maybe that could be a plugin instead of a theme option. Is the action already handled by an existing plugin? So maybe you need to add Google Analytics code. You want the client to be able to paste it in. Well, there's already plugins to do that. You don't need a theme options page for that. And finally, and this is a biggie, do you want the client messing with the design? All right. Now, I use the example of the tagline. That's pretty minor. But when you get into things like Suffusion, I mean, they're changing everything and anything about that theme. Maybe you don't actually want that. So talk to the client about that. Talk to them and say, maybe what we need to do is create a different child theme or have multiple child themes for you to choose from, something along that line. Anyway, things to consider before you just dive in and create a theme options page. When we're ready to, though, what do we need to do? We, of course, have to create all the settings for the theme options page and the structure of the form with all the elements in it. Then we've got to make sure we hook everything into WordPress. And what's great is there are a lot of very cool, easy to use features in WordPress that make it very, very simple to integrate all of this. Then when we're done, this is sort of the second half of a theme options page, you've got to get the options variables out of there and use them. So first of all, wherever you need to get those options, you need coding like this. Bring in the options, get them all out of the system. Now, it could be as simple as putting that in the header.php file if it's something you need on every single page. If it's not, you could just put it into the coding for a particular page or use a conditional on a page template or something like that. Then within your templates, once you've got those options brought out of the database, then you have to actually instantiate them, have to actually use them. So for instance, here we're using the option. This is all done as an array, so we're basically pulling out the tagline visibility part of the array, asking if it's true. If it is, then do this. Okay, so those are all the basic steps involved. We're going to get a brief start on it in this video, and then we'll continue in the next video. Alright, next in line is to actually start a theme options page. Now I'm calling this theme-options.php. Theoretically, everything you do in here you could put in your functions.php file, but it starts to get a bit cumbersome, especially if you've got a lot already in the functions.php or if you've got a lot to go in the theme options. If you're going to do a huge theme options like Suffusion's doing, even just of a few pages, you should create a folder called functions within your theme or your child theme, whatever it is. Create a folder there and reference it through that folder. That'll keep your theme a lot neater and easier to see. So when we create this theme options page, you've got to remember that we do have to bring it into our functions.php. Technically, it's a part of the functions.php file. So here's what I've done here is I've just said require it once, bring in theme options.php. Notice I'm using get style sheet directory. That's because we're in a child theme, our test1 child theme. that we've been using. Notice if I was using a regular theme, not a child theme, I would use get template directory for this call that we're doing in the functions.php. But in this case, it's get style sheet directory. Okay, back to our actual theme-options.php. A couple things we'll do before we finish this video. First, we're going to create a setting in the admin menu. We have to be able to get to this page, right? So I want it in the appearance box, and in order to do that I use this function, add theme page. Where you want to put it will vary with this function. You'll use a different function depending on where you want to put this, or if you actually want to create a whole new box. I won't get into all those details here, but it's possible to do. In this case, we're putting it under appearance, and we're giving the name of the page its own name here. Then we name the menu item. Then we tell what's the lowest level of role in WordPress to be able to access this. In this case, it's administrators. So editors, authors, nobody else is going to be able to see this, only administrators. File is the name of the page that we're referring to, which is ourself. So this is the easiest one to use. So it's always referring to this page. And then test options page, test theme options page. That's the function we're going to create down the road, as you'll see later, for actually creating the content of the page, the form and so forth. So we put this all into a function called add theme options page. Of course, you can name it whatever you want. And then we get the hook. This is the important part here, the hook for getting into WordPress. Add action. We're going to add to the admin menu, and we're going to add this function right here, the one we just created. Add theme options page. So it refers to this. So it isn't just creating the function here. It's not just this. You've got to then add it to WordPress through a hook. All right, so that's our start. It's going to get pretty easy after this. Once we get it all hooked in, you'll see how it all works in the next video.